All right, everyone. I'm Jennifer Purcell with Spark Flash Fiction, and we are here tonight with Marline Williams, who is the author of Secret River Rendezvous from our latest issue. So let me introduce her real quick, and then we're going to hop into it. So Marline Williams writes sweet yet swoony love stories set in the 1950s to 70s. Her debut novel, All Men Are Liars, Jesus Revolution Romance Book 1, releases September 2024. Although she lives in Western New York, she happily identifies as a Marylander. When not writing, she's thinking about writing and consequently burning dinner.
So true. I wish it weren't, but it's so true. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for having me tonight.
I'm so excited to talk to you about your story because I want to know what was the inspiration behind it, because we do not get a lot of stories that feature older couples. So what was your inspiration behind that?
Aside from being an older person myself, I was talking to a friend of mine and I was discussing, these flash fiction stories. And I said, I have a great idea. And she said, you know what? I would love it if you would just make it about an older couple, because it's not like once you hit 50, all of the romance is wrung out of your life. You still want to have that spark of romance. And I thought that was a great idea. So I went ahead and did that. And I also had a very, very jet setter kind of maiden aunt, my Aunt Dorothy, who was a globetrotter from the time that every summer she would go off to the strangest places in the world. And her sister, my other aunt, would say to her, can't you go to someplace nice like Paris or London? And she was in a yurt in, Yugoslavia or something, out in the wild or something. So I just got that idea and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have an older globetrotting kind of single woman and see what she could encounter, and to know that there's still a little flame of passion in the heart of somebody that's 51. Even though there's, snow on the roof, that doesn't mean there isn't a fire in the furnace. So
I love that.
That's the inspiration. It wasn't original.
Well, obviously, this is a historical romance because it's set in, I believe it's 1960. But is that your favorite subgenre of romance, or do you find yourself also liking like contemporary romance?
I really love historical. And it's funny because just this year, or maybe even last year, was the first time that they designated the 1970s, as officially historical. So I thought, phew, because that's my era and I love that. And I like being classified as historical. I like being immersed in another culture that's familiar, but there's just these interesting different things that happen. And so I just love reading pretty much any historical. You take me back in time and I'm a happy camper.
Do you ever lose yourself in the rabbit hole of research?
Oh goodness, yes. Ever? Like every time, Jennifer, every time. And it's so much fun because you find a little nugget. And then you just like, oh, well, wait a minute. What about the people that made those things? Like, where did they live? And what did they look like? And where did they go? And before you know it, you are deep, deep in the rabbit hole. And here comes like the Queen of the May or something, you all these unexpected things. And as so many other historical authors will tell you, you don't use everything that you research, but it's that richness. It just brings this wonderful texture to your work. And you know kind of what the people are smelling and tasting and seeing. And that adds just wonderful flavor and some real verisimilitude to your work. You just feel like, oh, I could walk down the sidewalk and recognize that. And I just find that hugely fun.
Now, I have to ask you, though, because I grew up on 60s and 70s music. So do you ever like bop to that while you're working?
Honestly, I'm one of those authors who cannot have even the sound of like a cricket in the background. I have to have radio silence. But I do have a Spotify list on my website. In fact, if people sign up for my email newsletter, they get it. And it's all 60s and 70s music. And it's not only like the popular songs of the radio, but it's also some of the Jesus music of the 70s and 60s. So there's a neat blend of that. And I will put that on when I'm getting ready in the morning. That's when I'm bopping to my 60s and 70s music.
Oh, I love it. Do you have like a favorite girl group or one of those boy groups back in the day that you find yourself going to over and over?
I really love of the Christian artists, I really love Keith Green. I really love the second chapter of Acts, and Randy Stonehill floats my boat. And in the secular world, I really love the Motown groups of the 60s, the Temptations, the Supremes, just um, all of those guys. I love that soulful music. And I think it would be hard for me to pick Tommy James and the Shondells. I love them. There are probably some people nodding and some people going, "What is she talking about out there?" But if you know, you know. And I like everything from the Beatles to just right on down through. I love the music.
Great. All right. Now, I want to talk to you about romance trips because people tend to have like their familiar favorites that they gravitate towards. But we were talking earlier, and you actually don't.
I'm not a trope girl. And in fact, as I said to you earlier, I didn't even know what a trope was when I got into this. I thought it was just you write a romance book, you write a love story. And then I found out that, you go on Instagram and everyone's listing all of these like, oh, friends to lovers, loathing to loving. I heard that one. I was like, well, that's pretty harsh. Like second chance romance and billionaire babies. And I just thought, are you kidding me with this? And I found it a little off-putting because one of the things I love about reading is just cracking open a book and having no idea where that love story is going. And so you're kind of tracking with the heroine, you're tracking with the hero. You're saying you're following the twists and the turns, and you're not like, I already know they're going to wind up because this is best friends to lovers. So I already know the answer. And so sometimes when I pick up a book, I won't read the back cover because I just want it to unfold for me. And I just, this whole trope business, I think is relatively new in the world of publishing. They didn't used to have a rubber stamp and they said, okay, this is this kind, this is this kind. I think maybe people that gravitate toward one trope and kind of stick in that lane, they swim in that lane. I think they're missing something. I think they should, like jump the bridge and come over to the dark side and, just have some fun.
Yeah, I can see it. I think it started off as a great marketing tool because if there's one that you just absolutely don't like, that book's not for me. But sometimes we unintentionally make it our entire personality.
Right, exactly. And you just kind of get stuck in a rut. And there's so many great books out there. There's just lots to explore.
Which is a great segue into my next question. Tell me about some sweet romances that you've enjoyed recently.
Well, I'm come from the old school of show and tell, so I actually brought some with me, and this is the most recent one I read. It's Laura France's follow-up to, yes, right, The Rose and the Thistle, and it's called A Matter of Honor, and it's a novella. It's kind of a, I can read this in the bathtub practically. It's that tiny. And this was charming, and it was a very beautiful, sweet romance, and it's set in it would be in the 1700s. Like most of her things are in the 1700s, so that's great. I also read, this is a World War II novel. It's written by a British author, A.J. Pierce. She's one of my all-time favorite writers, and this is called Mrs. Porter Calling. It's part of a series of books about two young women who are in the London Blitz period, and it's one of the funniest books I've ever read. It is not, it will make you cry, surprisingly, in some spots, but most of the time you laugh. She is kind of the modern answer to P.G. Wodehouse. She has a very witty way with words, and she's just very enjoyable. And then just because I can't help myself, I love reading Georgette Heyer, and this was a real shocker. There was nothing on the back that told me what to expect. And it turned out that this was written about, let's just say, like the Zorro period or the Pirates of the Caribbean period. So it was a little earlier than her. It's not her Regency. It's like one step back from that. And it is full of swashbuckling and pirates. And I was like, this is awesome. So, and the romance is super sweet. It's just very heroic. It's kind of like a Zorro type of thing where the guy is super bold and super brash and everybody wears doublets and hose, and it's just so much fun. So those are the ones that are my most recent sweet romances.
That sounds like some great recommendations.
Oh, I highly recommend them.
Now, since you're doing show and tell, why don't you go ahead and tell us about some pieces of writing advice that you just cling to, and maybe some people that you're like you go to when you want to know a little bit more about the craft.
Oh, that's a fabulous question, Jennifer. And I'm very new to this. I spent 25 years in the world of advertising, and I was writing things about avocados, and I was just writing a lot of stuff about food, which is fun, but it's not quite the same. And so when I entered the world of noveling, once I got out of that world, I really didn't know. I knew what I liked to read, but I didn't know, where to start. So I just was writing down stories. And then I ran into a brick wall because I started to read these books that were very prescriptive. You have to have this. You have to save the cat. You have to, you have to do this. I saw some woman on Instagram once, and she had her whole, God bless her, she had her whole dining room table covered with index cards, and it was she was plotting out her book. And it was like, this is where the hero has to do this. It was the hero's journey. And this is when this has to happen. And I just thought, I don't think I can work like that. That's starting to give me hives. Just watching her do this is making me get a little agitated. So then I discovered Stephen King. Now, I do not read Stephen King books. They are too scary for me. I'm just a big chicken heart, and I can't read them. But his writing advice, I listened to this on the way to a trip on like an audiobook, and he was narrating it. And by the way, he is hilarious. But anyway, his language is a little salty. Let's just say it's a little salty. And but his advice is basically, you need to follow the story. So you have the bones of a story, you're unearthing a fossil, and then you're going to put meat on it. But the fossil is what you find first, which is a really interesting visual, isn't it? I love that. And then he also says you have to kill your darlings. And that is, it is Stephen King after all. But, he's saying, you have a piece of work that you've done, you're in a chapter, and for some reason something isn't working, and you look at it, you examine it, and you realize, oh, this character is the problem. If this character wasn't here, I could work this scene better, or this person's getting in the way, or this is okay, like in Romeo and Juliet, why Shakespeare had to kill off Mercutio, because he was stealing the show. Like, he was so cool that you weren't paying any attention to Romeo and Juliet. So he was like, okay, I got to get rid of this guy. He's out. So Stephen King is kind of telling you the same thing. This, by the way, his book is called On Writing a Memoir of the Craft. And you can see I have my little tags here. But he says, if you have written this beautiful paragraph and it does nothing for the story, it does nothing to advance the plot, it does nothing to tell you the character, but it's so beautifully crafted, kill it. Just take it out and kill it, because you're only cluttering up your story. And that is so hard because, Jennifer, you're a writer. So you write something and you want that precious little baby to stay in there because it's so good. And basically he says, well, save it for some other book, but get it out of this one, or use it as a lead magnet or something, but get it out of your book. So I love Stephen King. And there's another Stephen in my life, and that is Stephen James. And this book, Story Trumps Structure, which is not a political statement. Then his subhead is How to Write Unforgettable Fiction by what? Breaking the Rules. Mwah. I just love this guy, because once I read him, and this is the truth, I cried when I read this, because I thought, finally, this guy gets it. This is how I write. This speaks to me, because he's a pantser. And if any of the people listening have no idea what a pantser is, there's plotters and people that, develop a beautifully structured plot. And I admire the heck out of that. I really do. But pantsers, they just write by the seat of their pants. They get an idea. Usually, if they're anything like me, at 2:00 in the morning, they get up, they start scribbling these ideas, and then it just kind of flows from there. So his main idea is that the characters and the story will tell you where you need to go. Just really get to know your characters, and then don't ever put them in a situation where it's false to them. And that's where he claims writer's block comes from, because you're trying to do something inauthentic with your characters. And I heard a phrase once that I thought was great. I don't think it came from either of my two Stevens, but they said that don't make your characters into plot puppets. So isn't that good?
Yes.
So you have the end in mind, like, I'm going to take them here, and then you just manipulate them to get them to that plot. And Stephen James is saying, don't do that. Let it be organic. He calls it discovery writing, I guess, because pantser is kind of, inelegant. But so it's a discovery writing, and you just kind of discover with the characters where they're going. And Jennifer, I'm going to turn the tables. I'm going to ask you a question. Haven't you ever had a character refuse to do something that you wanted them to do, where you were writing something and they were like, It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they're so stubborn about it, aren't they?
They are. It's annoying. I'm like,
it's annoying. Come on, I'm in charge. And they're like, oh, you really think so? I don't think so. So, so that's what I felt like I had come home when I read these two books, because I had read so many of those, here's the archetypes and here's the hero's journey and all this stuff. And I was like, it was actually making me feel like I couldn't write. So I just want to encourage people, if you are a pantser, stand proud. You've got Stephen King on your side and you've got Stephen James on your side. So that's not a bad cheering section for writers out there.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I'm going to still discovery writer, because the first time I told my friends who weren't writers that I was a pantser,
sounds so wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah. And they were like, you do what? And I was
You're a what now? And he's just like, okay, well, let me explain. Don't take that wrong. Okay, just let me explain.
That's when I realized writing definitely has its own jargon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a subculture, and there's a lot of strange things that you bump up against when you first come into it, and you just kind of either feign intelligence. Oh yeah, that's me. Or you just act dumb and say, what are you talking about? And so you can go either way.
Yes, exactly. All right. Now I want to talk about your upcoming novel, All Men Are Liars. Tell us about this book.
I'm so excited. This is my print proof, and it looks like it has turned into a stegosaurus, but that's not what has happened here. It's just my little stickies, so that, like, when they send you a print proof and you look at it and you're like, oh my word, I had no idea that it was going to go on that page like that. So you have a lot of monkeying to do with it. But this book has been the work of several years, and it is set in the 1970s during the Jesus Revolution. And as far as I can tell, Jennifer, and I don't want to be a pioneer, I can't find a single other novel that is written in the Jesus Revolution. There's some 1970s books that are usually sort of focused on Vietnam era, or, they're that type of book, or they're more about the Cultural Revolution. But nobody has tapped into this yet. And I just can't believe it, because it's so fantastic a time. And this is the story. It's a campus romance. You can tell from the cover that it's a sort of a rom-com. And it's the story of a young woman who has just become a Jesus follower. A Jesus freak is what we used to call ourselves back in the day. She's been baptized in the Potomac River, and now she's ready to take the world, down for Christ. And so she decides she's going to go to a Christian college, and she thinks it's going to be just like the book of Acts. Everybody there is going to worship, and it's going to be so wonderful. And she discovers that she feels she has to conform. She has to disguise herself as a conservative, modest, pleasant young woman, a Proverbs 31 type of young lady, so that she can get a nice Christian boyfriend. And what she doesn't realize is that that inauthenticity just kind of leads her astray in several directions. And one of the things that surprises her is that the devilishly handsome campus Romeo falls for her. And now she's stuck, because what feels like true love, is it true love? Is it something else? And now she has to decide whether to follow her wild-spirited heart, or to just sort of get stuck in that phony fake out that she's put in forever. So she's got to decide. And the the fun of this novel is, especially for people that lived through that or people that are fascinated with the 70s, is that they're going to recognize some of the hallmarks, some of the iconic things that you encountered. The music is in here. In fact, one of the fun things about this is that if you read the book and you download the Spotify, you will hear every song that is referenced in here is in the Spotify list. So you can sing along with my heroine and or whistle or hummel or dance along with her. And so it's really an examination. The title, All Men Are Liars, is an examination of what is authenticity, what does it mean to conform, and how much of yourself do you have to compromise in order to find true love?
Oh, I love that. That sounds so intriguing.
Thanks. And it's funny. I gotta say, I can't write a book without it being funny. It's pretty funny. It makes me laugh. So there you go.
Sometimes that's why I like writing alone, because I'll write something that's like really cracks me up, but then I look like a total crazy person.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's best to be alone. It's best to be alone when we're enjoying our own books, isn't it? For sure.
Yes. Now, tell me a little about the Jesus Revolution, because the first time I heard the term Jesus Revolution was when that Kelsey Grammer movie came out.
Oh, right. Yes. So it started in California, just like in the movie. And this is in the 70s, and Jesus was on the front cover of Time magazine. This is sort of a psychedelic, beautiful painting of him. And that movement went from coast to coast, and that started in the late 60s. And then it moved over to the East Coast. And this book is set in Pennsylvania. So this is sort of like the not the tag end of the movement, but it's definitely a progression of the movement. And it spread through the campuses. You probably heard about last February at Asbury College in Kentucky. They had that huge revival. And that was sort of an echo of the 1970 revival that happened on that campus in that very chapel. And so this is a book that sort of captures that and immerses the reader into that excitement when people were sitting on the floor in Presbyterian churches banging tambourines and coming in barefoot, and the guys all had long hair and looked like Jesus. It was really cool. Everybody would, if you believed in the Lord, you just walked out on the street and talked to you. Did you know, sir? Excuse me, sir. Jesus loves you, sir. I mean, this was happening in the streets. So it was just a tremendous time of upheaval. There was a lot of revolt, a lot of revolution. There was demonstrations and protest marches, and the Jesus people were really striving to bring Christ into the sort of the culture, and it was so dynamic. And we have yet to see anything like that. And I personally, as a Christian, I'm praying that it'll happen again. And I hope that when people read the book, they will remember how it felt, that passion and that drive and that zeal, and they'll get a little glimmer and say, gee, maybe I've spent some of the last 50 years compromising a little too much. Maybe I need to get back some of that zeal.
Yeah. That sounds fantastic, Marline. Where can readers keep up with you and be ready for when this book releases?
Aren't you sweet? You can go to marlinewilliams.com, and Marline is spelled MARLINE. And all of my socials are there. You can catch me on Instagram and Facebook, and I have a Pinterest board. And the book, actually, this is sort of a sneak peek for your viewers or our viewers here. This is going to publish on September 1. And it's available for pre-order right now. The ebook is available for pre-order, but the paperback and the ebook will release on September 1. And there's, I'm just been sending out to my email subscribers little tidbits, some sneaky chapters and things, so they can get a little taste of what's to come. But that's only like 2 weeks from now. Can you believe it?
I know, it sneaks up on you. It really does.
It really does. Yeah. So it's been really, really fun. And I try to post something every day on Instagram, sort of a little bit of a tease. And so you'll be seeing some images of sort of college campuses and some 70s things. So I invite your viewers to come and just get ready with me. I think it's going to be a blast.
All right. I'm excited. Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Marline, so much for joining us tonight.
It has been a sheer joy. I'm so tickled to get to know you, because I hear that Southern accent and it just makes my heart go pitty pat. I'm so happy to talk to a girl with a Southern accent. It brings it out in me. I love it. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. And thank you to Spark Flash Fiction. It was a thrill. That was my first published piece. So you guys, you creamed it right off the top. I'm so excited about that. Thank you.
Okay, we can claim you as like we discovered you. That's what we're
Yeah.
telling.
Oh, yeah. Oh, remember when she sent a short story into us? Remember that? Oh, yeah. That was great, was it? Yeah. No, it was a thrill. I was on the phone with my best friend, the one that was complaining with me that we didn't have any 50 plus romances. And she called me to just say, hey, I'm on my way home. You want to talk to me? And I was like, you're not going to believe what just came in my email. And she almost went off the road for me because she loves me so much. So it was such a thrill, honestly. I felt like Joe March running down the streets of Concord, Mass, holding the daily volcano in my hand saying, I've been published. So thank you for making that such a thrill for me.
Oh man, as writers, we always love doing that for other people because we remember those days that we finally, after all that blood, sweat, and tears.
And sadly, that blood, sweat, and tears continues. But it's great that you see something that's in print. It's just so marvelous. So thank you again. That's huge, huge to me. I know God's going to bless y'all for that.
Thank you, Marline. Now, I will be sure to post the links to Marlene's website and her social media, so you can be sure to check that out. And if you have not read her story yet, you need to go do it. It's the first one on the issue page, y'all. Like, you really can't miss it.
No, you can't. There's a muddy river in the picture. Go for it. That's the one.
Honestly, the title caught my eye. I was like, what is this rendezvous happening on the river?
Yeah, and here's the secret, you guys. There is a secret involved in this little tiny story, and I challenge any reader to figure it out before they get to the end of the story, because about halfway through, you'll see the tipping point, but see if you can figure it out before you get to there.
Oh, it's like a good mystery.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel so smart when I finally solve it.
Yes.
Well, everyone, whether you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, I hope you have a fantastic night and you get lots of reading done. I think we gave you plenty of good suggestions to add to your probably already towering.
Yes, your stack.
Definitely a stack. Well, thank you, everyone. Good night and keep reading.
Yeah, amen. Bye.